Welcome to MAHZEN. Before we begin tonight's terrifying journey, take a quick moment to look around your room. Make sure your doors are locked and your windows are tightly shut. If you love true, bone-chilling horror stories and want to support the channel, please hit that subscribe button right now and turn on all notifications. It really helps a new channel like MAHZEN grow, and you won't miss a single nightmare. Now, sit back, turn off the lights, and let's dive into our first story.
This happened a few years ago near Pondicherry, India, on the East Coast Road, which is a narrow, winding two-lane highway that hugs the shoreline. Most of it is completely dark after sunset. There are no streetlights, but you will see the occasional reflector post. Picture me, riding back into the city with a few friends packed into a small car, just cruising after a day out. It was after sundown and the visibility was low, and everything had that weird twilight haze to it. It was my friend in the driver's seat, and we were just chatting about where to grab dinner when suddenly he slammed on the brakes hard enough to jolt us forward in our seats. Right around the bend, there were two motorbikes lying on their side in the middle of the road, debris everywhere, bits of plastic, broken mirrors, and a sneaker. We were still processing what we were looking at when we noticed them. Three guys sprawled across the road, their limbs twisted in ways that didn't look survivable. From what we found out later, both bikes had been speeding in the opposite direction and hit head-on coming around that blind curve. With no time to react, one of the riders wasn't wearing a helmet. His face was barely a face anymore, smashed in completely. You could hear those wet, shallow gasps coming from his body, like he hadn't realized it was over. And then came the part that still messes with me. While we were frozen in place, hazard lights on trying to decide if we should get out and call emergency services, we saw headlights in the distance. A long-haul truck was coming. There was no time to flag it down. The truck didn't see the wreck in time. He tried to swerve but couldn't avoid everything. We watched in crippling horror as the semi clipped one of the bikes, ran over one of the riders who was just laying outside the center line, and the body folded. I still remember the sound, this dull, awful crunch. Not like in the movies, but quieter. The truck skidded to a stop ways down the road, and the driver ran back, yelling, panicking, but it was way too late. We stayed until the police and ambulance came, though there wasn't much left for them to do. Two were confirmed dead on the spot. The third guy with a crushed face was barely alive when we left, and judging by the condition he was in, though I am no medical professional, I don't think he would have made it out alive. I still drive that highway sometimes, and I always slow down at that curve. You never forget something like that. This happened to me when I was 15. My dad ran a wrecker service that mostly handled road semis, so I grew up riding along on calls that most people never see. Late one night we got a call that a truck had run off the road and hit a tree about 20 miles south of town. My dad and I fired up the wrecker and headed out into the dark. When we got there, the trucker and trailer had left the road on the right side and plowed straight through an old oak. This was back when cab over semis was still common. The engine sits under the cab, the one without a nose, and the truck's engine was still idling, humming like nothing had happened. The driver door was closed, and from the window we couldn't see anyone behind the wheel. The front windshield on the driver's side was shattered, with a big hole blown through the middle. The trailer was loaded with flat quarter-inch steel sheets, stacked like a giant metal deck of cards. It was pitch black, and at first our eyes weren't fully adjusted, so we couldn't see everything clearly. Our first impression was simple. The driver had hit the tree, smashed his head on the windshield, and was probably already in an ambulance somewhere getting treated. My dad started setting up the wrecker to hook onto the trailer and told me to climb up and get into the cab so I could release the brakes. I opened the door expecting an empty seat, of course. But instead, I was greeted by the lower half of a body sitting in the driver's place. When the truck hit that oak, one single sheet of steel had broken free from the load. It shot forward like a guillotine blade, sliced through the back of the cab, and cut the driver in half at the waist. The top half of his body had gone through that hole in the windshield, and with a flashlight, I followed the path out into the field beside the road. I found his upper half about 40 feet away in a cornfield, still gripping the upper part of the steering wheel he'd torn out, arms locked, frozen in time. We called it in, and they zipped him in a body bag, top and bottom halves together, and took him away. After that, my dad and I went back to doing what we came for, working through the night to get the truck and trailer recovered and hauled back to town. Growing up in a wrecker family, this was just one of many scenes like that. But honestly, this was probably one of the most impactful I'd ever seen, and it never left me. I used to laugh when people talked about that Final Destination scene with the log truck. Like, yeah, it was messed up, but it's a movie, right? But that's when I saw it happen in real life. And now, I can't drive behind a log truck without my chest tightening and my foot hovering over the brake, like I'm waiting for death itself to step out. I'm a trucker. I go all over the road, long hauls through different states. A few months back, I was rolling through Texas on a stretch of highway I'd been to a dozen times. It was a little after dawn, with clear skies and not much traffic, and everything felt normal. That's when I came upon a wreck, and when I say wreck, I mean utter carnage. 3 semis were involved, one of them a logging truck. Logs that were heavy, splintered, and massive were scattered across the asphalt like a giant had thrown javelins. 2 skewered the back of a cab like toothpicks through a sandwich, one right through the driver's side. I don't want to imagine what happened to whoever was sitting there, but I could see enough of the blood spray to know it wasn't survivable. News later said there were 3 confirmed fatalities. That doesn't sound like a lot until you see the aftermath up close. Until you wonder if someone blinked or dozed off for just 1 second and the world ended. I sat there in my rig on the shoulder, engine idling, just staring. It felt like I couldn't breathe. Something about the way the logs were sticking out was surreal. I swear, and I know it sounds crazy, but I felt like those logs weren't just there. It's like they wanted to be there, like some invisible hand had aimed them with precision. Since then, I don't mess with log trucks. I don't care if I'm running late or if there's a line of cars behind me. If I see one of those things in front of me, I get out of the lane or slow the hell down. Paranoid, perhaps, but I'm still alive, unlike the poor people involved in that collision.
Thank you for listening to tonight's stories until the very end. If these real encounters gave you chills, please show your support by hitting that like button, subscribing to MAHZEN, and sharing this video with a friend who loves horror. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these 3 stories terrified you the most? And if you were the security guard in the final story, would you have looked up at the rafters? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one of them. Stay safe out there and sleep with one eye open. Until next week.